Hi, good morning, everyone. Please, can you confirm that my audio and video is clear? Thank you so much. Thank you. Great. So good to see you all in this demo session for SBR. Let me just introduce myself. I'll be your faculty for SBR. My name is Prabha Shankar. I'm a qualified CA, ACS, and a DIPIFR from ACCA UK, right? So I will be taking you through SBR on behalf of Super Infinity Education. Okay, great. So let's start with, a little bit of background on SBR. Just wanted to quickly know before that, have any of you taken the paper already and got experience with it, or is it going to be your first time? Also, let me know on the chat box whether you have had exemptions from FR or, you have worked through the papers. So could you please confirm to me? Just to kind of get a feeler on, what kind of cohort this is. Great, okay. First attempt. Anyone else? 6 paper exemption. All right. Who else wants to share whether they are taking SBR for the first time? Okay. FR exemption, all right. Great. Okay. So all of you are taking SBR for the first time, and most of you have an exemption from FR, right? All right. Great. Thanks for the information. It's very useful to assess that, okay? Because all of you that SBR is simply going to be working on concepts which have already been explained to you in FR, right? So if you have an FR paper exemption, nothing to worry really. However, I just expect that you will have to put in that much more hard work. Okay, so if you had taken the FR exam, obviously you're already starting from a base. But then if you haven't, no worries, because ACCA gives exemptions only if you have, kind of passed through those tests in college, which are supposed to prepare you for your professional level papers, right? So going by that assumption, let us, kind of say that it's not such an issue. However, all of you must be totally aware that, you will have to put in that much more work on the professional paper, right? So if you have an exemption. Also, can you please tell me where you are joining us from? All of you, where are you joining us from? Which college, which city? Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay. Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much, Jaipur, Bangalore, all of you. All right. So let us start the session now. I was just trying to get a feeler of the batch, and it's kind of pretty clear to me. So let's start straight away. Now I'm going to, since all of you are SBR first attempt, the first thing that you really should be doing when you start your preparation is obviously looking at the syllabus. Okay. So where are we looking at the syllabus from? The best source of all information is your ACCA homepage. Okay. So in your ACCA homepage, go to, just open up the search bar and you can just fill in SBR syllabus or whatever else it is you're looking for, right? So that's going to bring up the latest syllabus for you. Make sure you're always referring to the syllabus which is relevant to your attempt, right? So if we are going to attempt in June 2025, in that case, we need to be looking at the syllabus which pertains to June 2025. That's very, very important. Okay. So you should be aware that in case there are changes made, you shouldn't be caught without that awareness, right? Okay, so I have already opened up the syllabus for you from the ACCA homepage. So let's straight away get into the relevant parts of the syllabus. So if you can see here, this is section 2. I'm sure all of you can see the shared screen, right? So this is section 2. It talks about main capabilities. And they have divided it into 7 sections actually. So the last section, which is G, is more of demonstrate employability. And that is something which, you don't have a separate chapter or anything which deals with this. It is simply that by using the CBE platform, all of you know the ACCA testing is going to be on it's computerized, it's computer-based exam. So CBE platform. So since they are using that kind of a platform, they are actually training the students to become industry ready, so to say, because in the corporate world, obviously everything works online these days, right? So section G, which is demonstrate employability and technology skills, that's already embedded in all the above sections. So it's not a separate chapter for you as such, right? The other sections, if you see, section A, what does section A talk about? It talks about fundamental ethical and professional principles. So I thought you would have done a little bit about it. So ACCA lays a lot of stress on professional and ethical principles, right? And when we look at the exam pattern, the questions that are, going to come in the exam, you will realize that there are some marks which are set aside in the SBR paper for this particular section, right? So they're going to give you a question and they're going to ask you to discuss the ethical implications that the accountant, could be facing, the ethical dilemmas. What is the meaning of ethical dilemma? Ethics basically means to do the right thing, isn't it? So ethical dilemma basically means that the accountant, who is the ACCA member, has an option and to do the right thing or to do the wrong thing, right? So you know very well that management of the company wants to show a very good picture about the financial statements of the company, right? About the balance sheet, about the P&L. They want to, show as if the company has performed extremely well. And towards that end, they could ask the accountant of the company to pass certain entries in the books of accounts which are unethical, okay, which are not as per the accounting standards, which are, covered under IFRS. So it could be going against the accounting standard, or in case there is no accounting standard for that particular event. Remember, there are many events for which accounting standards are not existent. For example, crypto accounting, right? Cryptocurrencies. We don't have a dedicated accounting standard for that. So in those scenarios, how the ACCA member who is an accountant in the company is going to be faced with making a decision about whether I should do this or I should do that. So this is right and that is wrong. So how are they going to tackle this? Sometimes they could tell you in the case study that the manager is putting a lot of pressure on the accountant to do the wrong thing. If they don't do that particular, they don't perform that particular task, then probably their increment or their, job is at stake. So you need to weigh all these circumstances, and you need to, kind of give an answer about the ethical situation that the accountant is in. And you're going to be given, marks for that. All right. So the first section is going to lay emphasis on ethical and professional, principles which govern an ACCA member. So how does this map to your syllabus, right? So this is just the broad idea, right? Section A. Now, there are chapters which are dedicated to this. So you have chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the SBR study text. We will be seeing that soon. So chapter 1 is about frameworks, and chapter 2 is about, your professional ethics. So you need to be thorough with these two chapters. Why? Because as I said, there are going to be marks which are set aside for these two, chapters. So even if it is just 2 marks or 4 marks, whatever, but you need to be aware of those because they're 100% going to come in the paper, right? So that is one thing that you need to remember. Okay. Just give me a second. Yeah. So next, going on to section B, it talks about evaluate the appropriateness of the financial reporting framework, right? So this is, testing your conceptual framework, the financial reporting framework, and critically discuss, changes in accounting regulation. So remember, guys, this is not an FR paper. This is a professional level paper, right? And therefore, in this paper, ACCA expects you to, wear the hat, so to say. Wear the hat, matlab, you're going to be like playing the role of an advisor. Okay? So you're going to be playing the role of an advisor to the directors of the company. So look at what they expect you to do in this section. Evaluate the appropriateness of the financial reporting framework. So the framework has already been framed, isn't it? The conceptual framework is already there. You have to evaluate whether the financial reporting framework, the IFRS conceptual framework, is appropriate or not appropriate in certain cases. So it's kind of testing whether you should not take anything for granted. That is what they're trying to tell you in section B. What is the meaning of don't take anything for granted? So they are telling you in the framework that you have to account for a certain transaction in a certain way. Okay, they are telling you that in the accounting standard, or they are telling you that in the framework. Now, it may not be consistent. The same situation they may be saying in some other accounting standard that you do it in a different way. There are instances like this, okay, all across the accounting standards and the framework. So what ACCA wants you to do is not take anything for granted. Ki chalo, they are telling me to do this, so I will do this. They are trying to develop your questioning ability. You should evaluate how appropriate is the financial reporting framework to this situation, whatever situation they give you in the case study, right? And you have to critically discuss as well. What is the meaning of critically discuss? You must point out in your answers, you should give the pros as well as the cons. That is what they mean. Okay, so you should be able to critically discuss that particular event and also the changes in accounting regulation. For this purpose, you have to be thorough with your recent changes to accounting regulation. How are you going to do that? So there's basically something called the examinable documents. Many of you may have already heard of that, right? You have to just go again, as I said, always stay in touch with your ACCA homepage. Over there, you go, put in the search box about examinable documents 2025. Please be sure that you use the latest one. Okay. And also you keep looking at something like technical articles. They keep publishing all this on the ACCA homepage. As an SBR professional level student, you cannot do just your study text and go to the hall, right? Especially if, you're aiming not to just pass, right? You're planning to get really good marks in the paper. I'm sure all of you want that, right? You're quite ambitious. So how are you going to keep, first of all, you should know the change in the accounting regulation, and then you should be in a position where you critically assess the change. All that you can't do unless and until you do a lot of reading outside your study text. Okay, please remember this, all of you. You have to do a lot of reading outside your study text. Okay, just give me a second. I need to just check. Yeah, so I was just checking if everyone is comfortable, no messages on the chat box. Okay. All right. So that is about your section B. So section B of what they're going to ask you in your, it doesn't mean that it's section B of your question paper. I'm not talking about that, right? We are yet to look at exam pattern. This is broadly what are the types of questions you can expect? What do they expect from you in the paper? That's what we are trying to discuss here. Okay, just give me a second. Yeah, so absolutely, you're right. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so you're right, absolutely. So that is what they are trying to test you. Okay, next, look at C. C says apply professional judgment in the reporting of, these financial in the reporting of the financial performance and reporting. So there is a chapter number 3, which is talking about, how you report performance. Now, having said that, all the chapters, each of the chapters cover a different accounting standard, right? So we're going to learn all of that in our sessions. So what they're trying to tell you in section C of the capabilities is you have to apply professional judgment. Whose professional judgment? Yours. You are the professional that they are talking about. Okay. So by the time you take the SBR exam, you should have enough knowledge to behave as if you are a professional. That's what they're trying to say. Okay. So apply professional judgment in the reporting of the financial performance of a range of events. Okay. So of a range of events, you should be able to judge in a professional manner. What is the meaning of judging in a professional manner? That means you have to be able to arrive at a conclusion on the way the entity, the company's directors have prepared the financial statements, right? Remember, they have a lot of estimation in the financial statements. So you should use your professional judgment and you should be able to comment whether those estimates that the directors have used in the preparation of the financial statements are making sense or not making sense. In simple language, that is what you need to do. Okay. So that is your apply professional judgment. So you see, you're actually being treated like you're already a professional in this paper, right? Then they're talking about D, that is prepare the financial statements of groups of entities, right? So group accounting is, very, very, very important for this particular subject. You've learned basic groups in FR. You need to step up now, right? In fact, when we look at the paper pattern, the very first question is they're going to give you a spreadsheet which is pre-populated. What is the meaning of pre-populated? Matlab, they will give you the format of the SOFP, Statement of Financial Position, or they will give you the format of the SOPL, Statement of P&L, Profit or Loss. And they are also going to fill in, right, some of the numbers. Some numbers are going to be missing. Some numbers may be incorrect. But remember, all this is going to relate to a group, right? So what is a group? It means there is a parent and there is maybe 1 or 2 subsidiaries, mostly 1 subsidiary and 1 associate. So in this group financial statements, they are going to expect you to show your knowledge on how to actually prepare the financial statements of the group of entities. So this section D is very clear. They want you to know how to prepare financial statements, SOPL, SOFP, group cash flow statement, which you have not learned in FR, right? And then all these things they will ask you, but there's going to be a pre-populated spreadsheet. All right. So that is what they are saying here. Then they're talking about E, which is interpret financial and non-financial information for different stakeholders. You need to understand that this is more of how are different stakeholders, who are the stakeholders, the people who are actually going to read or use these financial statements. How are they going to understand what the accountant is saying or the directors of the company are saying about these financial statements, right? So you're going to have to interpret financial as well as non-financial. Financial, you can interpret. You can use ratios, you can use, trend analysis, you can use all of that, and you can interpret financial. But they are saying you have to learn to interpret the non-financial information as well, right? So whatever disclosures have been made, right, in the financial statements, you should know from the viewpoint of the investor, what is the company trying to tell them by these disclosures. Okay, so all this section E is very important. And then F, you have communicate the impact of changes and yeah, 1 second. So communicate the impact of, yeah, any question you have? Not really? Okay. So communicate the impact of changes and potential changes as well, right? Potential changes in accounting treatment of certain events. So you need to discuss that as well in section F. They're asking you to look at that. Okay. So they're asking you to look at potential changes as for in accounting treatment and accounting regulation in financial reporting. So how are you going to know all this? How are you, okay, if there is a specific change, you will know because you are reading it from the study text. How will you know potential changes? Potential changes, once again, you need to go to the technical articles, you need to go to all the information that is published on the ACCA website, okay? Thankfully, more or less, they will not, test you on things which are not there, which they have not discussed on the website. So we can, kind of lean heavily on the ACCA homepage. But this is something that you need to do as of, when you're preparing for your professional level paper. Okay, section G, I've already told you, it's not a separate, issue at all. They just asking you to use the CBE platform and thereby they are, kind of preparing you for your technology skills and employment skills, employability skills. Okay. So that is what I need to tell you by way of introduction to the syllabus. I'm going to just quickly check the chat box whether you have any questions, any of you. Okay, there's someone in the waiting room. Just give me a second. Okay. So next, let's go on to the first, topic for discussion. So what I thought was let us look into the professional ethics chapter, which is your second chapter in the study text. Okay, so let us look at that chapter. Just give me a second. I think some of you are having internet issues. Is that it? So remember, guys, the main important thing for online sessions is get a very strong internet connection, right? Otherwise, it's not effective. So you have to make sure that you have an effective online, strong, internet connection, okay, before you sign up for online classes. Any online class, that is a prerequisite. So I can see you leaving, joining many times. Just a second. Okay. So now we will come out of this and we will get straight away into our professional ethics chapter. Okay, so just sharing the study text with you. 1 second. Just a second, all of you. Okay, by the time I open up the study text, because there's some issue here. So let us straight away talk about what the professional ethics chapter is talking about, right? As I said earlier, professional ethics is something which the ACCA member is absolutely it's necessary for the ACCA member to imbibe. All of you know what are professional ethics. Basically, it means that you need to have objectivity in your assessment of financial statements. You need, what is the meaning of objectivity? It means that whatever your assessment is of financial statements, you need to be, free from bias, right? So that is the meaning of, having objectivity. And then apart from objectivity, you need to have integrity. So what is the normal meaning of the word integrity? It means that you need to be honest in your dealings with as an accountant. So just a second. I think now my screen share is working. So I'll just. Yeah, so I think you can see it now. Can all of you confirm that you can see the study text screen share now? Pranati?
Yes, ma'am, I can see.
Okay, thank you so much, dear. So remember in section A, the big question, the 30-mark question, the first one is going to be group accounting, okay? So whenever you prepare, make sure you've put a lot of stress on that. And then you're going to have another question, which is for 20 marks. So that's 30 plus 20, 50 marks for your section A. And section B is going to be 2 questions of 25 marks each, right? Where are the questions going to come from? That's the usual question that all of us have. And the answer to that is it could, of course, come from any part of the syllabus. You don't expect them to repeat group accounting in any other part. The first 30 marker is going to be group accounting. So after that, it's going to be all individual accounting standards that they're going to test you on. Okay. So let us quickly go to the second chapter. The first chapter is completely dealing with conceptual framework. Okay. I'm assuming that many of you will already have knowledge of conceptual framework, but we will come back to that in next Saturday's session, because this is equally important for your. Actually, the problem is, as usual, we cannot say what is not important. Everything is important for your ACCA paper, right? Okay. As you can see, all of them are pretty long chapters. And the most important thing you must understand about SBR is it's not so much, calculation is of course there, but your ability to advise, evaluate, discuss, so you'll have to write a lot, paragraphs, right? That has to be written. You can't just think of it as, I'm just going to prepare, only the calculations. that doesn't work. So you see all these blue boxes while I'm scrolling down. Those blue boxes are very important because they give you like the investor perspective. What is the meaning of investor perspective? It means one of those sections, if you remember, we had to interpret, whatever was happening in the financial statements and the changes from the viewpoint of different stakeholders, right? So by reading through all these blue boxes, you're going to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's not possible. So this is a very, very application based, kind of a paper. So you need to really read up thoroughly the blue boxes and get an idea as to how you need to interpret. Okay, so that's a challenge here. So this is the chapter that we need to do now. That is chapter 2, which is on ethics. Okay. Just a second. Okay. So all of you would have read about the various codes of conduct. You may or may not have read it. So let us look at it together. So the various codes of conduct we need to learn, and then we need to discuss also the consequences of unethical behavior. Okay. So let's look at what they're trying to tell us here. So what we need to remember is a lot of stakeholders are going to be looking at the financial statements, and we need to, we in the sense, the professional accountant has to make sure that the financial statements are of such quality that the various investors and the stakeholders are able to make proper decisions about these financial statements. And how are they going to get this kind of information? Only if the information that is presented in the financial statements truly reflects what the entity's transactions are, right? And that is where your professional ethics comes in, right? So if you can see what they are saying here, the ethical belief of individual accountants is very important because that's going to drive how the financial statements are going to be, finally presented. Because if your ethical beliefs, your personal ethical beliefs are not of the highest order, then you may think that kya hai, you can just, show a little bit of rosy picture and it's okay, right? So that's what they are trying to tell us here, that it's not okay, right? So you have to, the true and fair view that you have always been learning can be achieved only if the professional accountant has, adheres to certain rules, certain moral conduct, etc. So how do you incorporate ethics in accounting? That's very important for us to understand. So what are the rules? Basically, there are some rules which are published by various national accounting standard bodies. That means, for example, if you see the UK, you have standard setting bodies. Within the UK, we're talking about national accounting standards. So you could have certain rules which are published by the Institute of Chartered Accountants, for example, right? So those are the rules which the national accounting standards are setting in order to regulate what or how the professional accountant should be dealing with certain situations. Okay, so remember this topic, you may think it is very simple, but unless and until you have a very clear understanding of what this topic is about, you will not be able to answer the ethical dilemmas that the accountant is facing. So please do pay special attention to this topic. So sometimes national standards set out rules that you have to do this, you can't do that. Now that is sometimes too rigid. And therefore, on the other hand, you have something called the principles-based standards. So the principles-based standard example of which is, of course, our very own IFRS standards. They are principles-based. They don't tell you exactly what is right, what is wrong. Instead, they believe in gently guiding you. How do they do that? They give you a broad discussion, a broad idea about what is the purpose of the financial statements. Okay, what are you preparing and who are you preparing these financial statements for? Are you, if you are preparing it with the mindset that ultimately I should be able to give a proper idea about my company's performance to the person who has invested their money, then automatically it becomes a principles based approach. Because depending on the situation, you're continuously evaluating whether this is the correct accounting treatment, which will ultimately give the correct picture to the investor, or is this the wrong accounting treatment, which is not going to help the investor in any way. So that is what they are trying to do here. In the principles based system, they are simply not telling you what to do, what not to do. Instead, they are telling you, keep the big picture in mind all the time. What is the meaning of big picture? It just means that you have to make sure what are you, who are you preparing these accounting standards for? And what is the purpose of these financial statements? So once you keep this in mind, then automatically the problem is solved, because then you're going to do the right thing, right? So there are two approaches, rules-based and principles-based. Principles-based is the preferred approach. The reason being that you're not being dictatorial, you're not telling them this is the way it is, that is the way it is. However, you're giving them a principle and you're telling them that, remember, you are preparing the financial statements for some investors, and those investors are putting their money in the business, and you need to give them information so that they can take the correct economic decisions. So definitely the principles-based system, which is what IFRS standards are following, is considered to be a better system than the rules-based system. Okay, so if you had to critically discuss this, then make sure that you say how the rules-based system is different from the principles-based system. Okay, I hope that is clear to you, that principles-based gives you a more broad base on which you can carry out your decisions about what is correct and what is wrong. That is what a principles-based approach is all about. Next comes ethical codes. So these ethical codes of conduct, ACCA itself has set it out. And these are nothing but very simple ones. Whenever the ACCA member, who is an accountant, is trying to make a decision about certain transactions, what decision are they making? Should I account for it this way or that way, right? So there are certain guiding, there are certain fundamental principles that they should remember. What are these fundamental principles? Whether they are being honest in their accounting or in their decision making, right? So that is where integrity comes in. You have to be honest. You have to say the right thing, do the right thing. Even if the company is making some decisions, made some investments, etc., which are loss making, upfront it to the investors. Make sure that you're honest about the way you are taking your accounting decisions. Then comes objectivity. That means you have to be free from bias. You should not try to paint a very rosy picture of any event. Any transaction that you're trying to account for, you must think of it very objectively. Objectivity makes sure that you are showing the true view of the event. So you should not be biased. You should simply show the event as it is. Then comes professional competence and due care. Under professional competence and due care, what ACCA is trying to do is making sure that the member, the ACCA member or the professional accountant, whoever it is competent professionally to carry out that task. It shouldn't be that they are not skilled enough. That's one reason why they make the ACCA syllabus in such a way that ultimately when you become an affiliate, you are competent to handle these accounting situations, accounting and reporting situations, right? So professional competence is a code of ethic, literally. They are saying that you have to be professionally competent. If you are not competent to do a particular job, say, for example, you go for an interview and they ask you, have you done this particular task before? And you say that, yes, I have. But in reality, you don't have any experience with that task. Why do you say you have? Because you desperately need the job. So you are ready to portray yourself as competent to do that job, even though you really don't know about it, right? So that is something which is unethical. That is why they are saying professional competence is coming under code of ethics. Why is it ethical? And why is it unethical? Because if you portray yourself as having a competency or a skill which you don't have, then the financial statements that you finally churn out are not going to be reflecting a true and fair view. It's going to be full of errors, mistakes, it's just not up to the mark. So as a part of ethics, they are saying the member has to be professionally competent and they should take due care when they are discharging their duties. What is the meaning of due care? They should make sure that they are giving enough attention to detail. They are not being careless. They are taking all the care that is required to make sure that the financial statements that are being churned out are true and fair, and they are doing a good job of helping the investors make decisions about the investment. Okay, so that's about professional competence and due care. Then after professional competence and due care, just a second. Yeah. After professional competence and due care, you have professional behavior. Just a second. This mouse is not... Remember, any of these codes, if the accountant is not following, then it actually tantamounts to unethical behavior or even misconduct. Because if you read the heading, it says professional code of ethics as well as conduct, right? So it will lead to it's almost like there is a misconduct or unethical behavior. So after yeah, sorry, I've scrolled down too much. So after the first three, you had, after professional competence and due care, you have confidentiality. So under confidentiality, what do they say? They are saying that the ACCA member or the professional accountant has to maintain confidence of information, right? They should keep the information that they obtain about their company in the discharge of their duties confidential. They should not leak out information because that is again unethical. You should not be sharing information about your company with outsiders unless and until there is only one scenario where you could do that, and that is if legally you're bound to do it, which means if in a court case you are asked to come and talk about a certain transaction or event. In that case alone, you can overcome confidentiality problems. Otherwise, as per the Professional Code of Ethics and Conduct, you are supposed to keep matters relating to the company confident. Okay, so confidentiality is the fourth one. And finally, the fifth one is professional behavior. So what is professional behavior? Professional behavior basically means that the ACCA member or the accountant has to, under all situations, behave professionally, right? So professional behavior could also, it's a gray area. Gray area means you can't really define what is professional behavior. It's just that you behave in such a way that nobody can say that an ACCA member has not been professional. Even coming on time could be a professional behavior for that matter, right? Also, it could be that you dress in a certain way or you communicate in a certain way. So all of this together constitutes your professional behavior. Okay. So these are the 5 professional code of ethics and conduct. Now, if you see here the blue box that's there on your screen, it talks about the conceptual framework and the code of conduct. How are these two related? The conceptual framework states, just a second, that the financial statements should provide, should have a faithful representation of whatever events have taken place, and it should provide only relevant information. So by, kind of making sure that you are following your professional code of ethics and conduct, you are actually trying to achieve this objective of the conceptual framework, which is to provide relevant information. What is going to provide relevant information? The financial statements. Okay, so you're going to ensure that the financial statements provide relevant information and they provide a faithful representation. What is faithful representation? It means that you are showing the transactions as they should be shown, right? Relevance basically means that they should be material enough to affect the decisions of the investors, and faithful representation means that you are showing the figures or the financial statements the way they are supposed to be shown. Okay, so the conceptual framework is linked to the professional code of ethics. How is it being linked? Because if you fulfill your professional code of ethics, the 5 professional codes, what are they? Integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. If you can follow these 5 principles of professional code of ethics and conduct, then automatically the requirement of the conceptual framework, which is to provide information in the financial statements which are relevant. And relevant for whom? Relevant for the investors, because they are the users of the financial statement. So they are relevant and they are faithfully representing the information, right? So once you can fulfill your professional code of ethics and conduct, automatically the conceptual framework concern on relevance and faithful representation is taken care of. Okay, so that's how they are linking your conceptual framework and professional code of ethics and conduct. Okay, just a second, I'll just have to go up a little bit. Any questions so far? I think there are some chats that I've not been looking at. So let me just look at those. Yeah, that's fine. So no major queries as of now. Okay, let's go on. So they are also talking a little bit about insider trading, etc. in this chapter. So that is also an important topic that we need to discuss. So you must have, I mean, if you have had exemptions, even in your law paper, we had talked about insider trading, etc. in the last chapter. Even if you have had exemptions, I'm sure you would have gone through, these topics. You must have done law in college sometime, and that must have been mapped to the ACCA syllabus. So insider trading as a concept basically means that one of the employees has enough information which is not publicly available, and they can use this information to manipulate the share price, right? So that is what is insider trading. Most of us are aware of that as well. So what is the accountant's role in this insider trading? Why are we talking about insider trading in the professional code of ethics, right? So let me just go to that part. Yeah. So what is insider trading? So insider trading is the illegal practice of trading on the stock exchange when by people who have access to confidential information which is not yet published in the public domain, right? And what are the effects of insider trading? They say clearly that it's not unethical for employees of a company to Yeah. So the part that I've highlighted here is what you need to really understand, that the ethical dilemmas are basically because, so it's not really a problem if employees of a company, they trade in the shares of the company. So they are saying that it's not a problem at all. They can do that. Even if you're an employee of Reliance, you can hold shares of Reliance. They are not saying that there is a law against that, right? So you have to remember that. However, the ethical dilemma is basically whether the employees who have access to very sensitive information, that means like the directors of the company, okay, they have access to information which is going to impact the uh, value of the stock of the shares in the stock exchange. If those kind of people share this information with others in such a way that the stock prices are actually impacted, then that is where the problem arises. Okay. So the thing is, they're clearly saying that the law relating to these matters, it varies. In America, key employees and directors of a company who trade in its shares must report this to the regulator, which means that all they require you to do is they're not asking you not to trade. They are saying you can trade. However, you need to report to, say, for example, SEBI in India, right? You need to report to the regulator that you have so many shares and you are trading in those shares. Okay, so what is the ethical dilemma? The ethical dilemma is basically only that employees and important employees, key employees like directors, who have access to information that is not yet published, those people, if they trade in a large number of shares relating to the company, which ultimately results in problems in the stock market. Okay, so please be very clear that they are not telling you that you can't trade in shares of your company. They are only saying that insider trading is not advisable. It is an ethical problem. Okay, and what is insider trading? It is when key employees have sensitive information which is not yet known to the outside public. Then it is a problem. That's all they are trying to tell us. So insider trading is a breach of the ethical code of conduct that has been published by the ACCA. So they are saying ACCA members, that is, even though there is no legislation which says that you can't trade in shares of your own company, but ACCA members, they who have access to confidential information about companies, they should not be disclosing these confidential matters to outsiders, because that will lead to a lack of integrity. So if in your exam question, they ask you, how does insider trading relate to the code of conduct or the ethical code of conduct of ACCA members, you must simply say that if the ACCA member shares confidential information which is going to impact the share price of the company, then it shows a lack of integrity. And remember, integrity is one of the professional code of ethics. So all I'm trying to say is you have to learn from this chapter how ethics can be related to various transactions. So you must, it's a very commonsensical thing. You know what is right, what is wrong. You know that it's wrong to manipulate share prices because a lot of people could lose money. That is why it's wrong. So if that be the case, then how you must frame your answer for the ethical part of the question is try to identify whether the transaction that you are evaluating is an ethical one or an unethical one. What is the dilemma that the ACCA member is facing? Here, clearly, the ACCA member is facing the dilemma that they have a lot of important information about the company, and that if they share with others, then it's going to be unethical. How is it unethical? That also you should mention in the answer. You must clearly point out that it's unethical because, it's you're sharing information and it is going to be a lack of integrity on your part. Now comes ethics in the digital age. So in the digital age, when information is so easily available to everyone, how are you still going to preserve these concepts or principles of ethics? That is what they're trying to discuss in this section. So they're talking about how you can be professionally competent, because even if you are an accountant, you should have enough knowledge about how, for example, AI is going to behave and how you can be ethical. So there is a very interesting question that comes up. AI is used very, rampantly, isn't it? Like even if students are given a project to do in college, they are just going to type in the question in ChatGPT and they're going to get their answers. So now the question is, if a person who is saying, if a person who is an ACCA member, because we are only worried about these people, if they say that they have some kind of professional competence on a certain matter, but they are going to end up performing their tasks using ChatGPT or some AI product, then is it really ethical? Because on the one hand, you say that you are professionally competent. On the other hand, you're simply using, another tool to get your answers. to perform your duties in your professional capacity. So that's the question which is, challenging ethics over here. You are trying to find out, is it okay for, an employee to use AI such that they are getting all their answers from AI? That way, you don't need to be an ACCA affiliate at all, isn't it? Anybody who has even done BCom can simply say that, yeah, I have the professional competence. And how can they say that? Because of the fact that, they are simply going to get the answers from ChatGPT and they're going to, kind of discharge their duties. So I hope you're following what is the meaning of challenges, ethical challenges in the digital age, right? So in the digital age, you have professional competency, which is an important code of ethic, but then you're going to have a lot of technologies which are going to help you in doing your job, even if you are incompetent. Now, the problem here is if you are incompetent and you're going to rely heavily on artificial intelligence, and if the prompt that you give is going to give you a wrong answer and you don't have the competency to evaluate whether the answer is correct or wrong, and you're simply going to use it, then again, the information that you ultimately give the investors is going to be bogus. Also about confidentiality. So what are the two main ethical problems that could come up in the digital age? Just remember competence and confidentiality. So confidentiality basically means that the accountants who are the ACCA members have access to a lot of data, and they could share this data with both internal and external stakeholders. So the problem is when data is shared, like for example, recently we heard a case where, the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer of an insurance company, was sharing a lot of personal contact details, personal details about the customers of that company. He was selling it for money. So this is something that can easily happen. And if you are an ACCA member and you are found that you are breaching this confidentiality aspect, that means you are trying to sell data which should have actually been confident. It could be a game changer for your competitors. So in that case, it's an unethical behavior, right? I hope you're following what I'm saying, that it's an unethical behavior. Again, they're talking about ethics and AI. So this I have already told you briefly what is the relationship. It could completely hamper your professional competency. It could, even hamper your integrity. It can, kind of go across ethical issues. So what is the impact of ethical and unethical behavior? What are the consequences you must remember? That if you have unethical behavior, then the consequences would be you could be fined by the ACCA. There could be loss of reputation because obviously, you have been called out as someone who has followed unethical practices. You could even be imprisoned in certain cases. You could be debarred from membership. That means your membership could be struck off the register of members. You could lose your, you've put in so much of hard work to become an ACCA member, but then you could, kind of lose your membership as well. So these are all the problems that could come up, the consequences of unethical behavior, right? So these are the unethical behavior or consequences that you must remember. Okay. All right. So just a second. I think just give me 2 minutes to fix this. So all of you know that there is something called the exam kit that you need to be learning as well. You need to be practicing a lot of the exam kit. So in the course of our classes, I will be going through a lot of exam kit questions as well. Okay, so that you don't have to struggle with it by yourself. So that's the plan. We will be doing a lot of exam kit questions. As and when we complete a chapter, I would request you, to go through the relevant questions from the exam kit and so that you get an idea. So you should not be waiting till the end of, the lectures to open your exam kit. That should not be the way. Okay, so we are done with consequences, that there could be fines, there could be loss of professional reputation, there could be, you could be debarred from calling yourself an ACCA member. You could be imprisoned, all of this. Okay. Finally, they are talking about ethics and profits. So what are they trying to say about ethics and profits? So this is a very simple thing. So you know that businesses exist to make a profit, right? Businesses exist to make a profit, but profit at what cost, right? So are you trying to make profits such that you don't care about how much you cause damage to the environment? Is that how you're going to make your profits? That is again an unethical practice. Why? Because it's again not sustainable as well. Why is that? Because in the short term, you're going to make a lot of profits, probably, cut down a lot of trees, pollute a lot of rivers, pollute the environment. But in the long run, all that is going to come back and bite you, right? So it's going to make sure that you have to pay heavier fines, that probably your employees themselves are going to get sick, the society around you is going to, fall sick, and your profits are automatically going to reduce. So ethics is actually something which is a very, very important and relevant concept, because if you make ethical profits, if you see, for example, these days, you even see companies, cosmetics companies, you must have seen their ads these days, right? They say that we have not done animal testing since so and so year. So earlier, they used to test all their products on animals first, and then they used to, sell the products. So they were making huge profits. But now they are coming out and saying, we want to make ethical profits, we want to be sustainable, and therefore we have stopped testing our cosmetics on animals. That's a direct example of what is the meaning of ethics and profits. Okay, so you must make sure that you are, as ACCA members, as accountants, you must make sure that if the company you're working in is, kind of making profits, it is actually making ethical profits, not unethical ones, right? So here they're giving you an advantage of making ethical profits. It says it can attract green investors. Green investors basically means people who are inclined towards, sustainability, towards ethical practices. And those kind of investors are always looking for businesses which could, turn out operations in an ethical way, thereby making ethical profits. So these are all very, very relevant current topics, which you must always, appreciate and understand. It's a great topic as well, because as a student, you may not be able to understand why is ethics so important, right? I can only say that hopefully you have been able to understand that, first of all, ethics and conceptual framework are completely related to each other. How are they related? They are related because the conceptual framework continuously says two things. What are the continuous things it says? It says that the information that you present in the financial statements should be relevant. It says that the information that you present in the financial statements should faithfully represent the transactions that the company is carrying out. How does ethics help in that? Because if you follow the code of ethics, then you have the knowledge. Say, for example, if you are a professionally competent person, then you have the knowledge what is relevant information. What information is going to really impact your investors to make the correct decision? That is only relevant, right? And then, as a professionally competent person, you know what would be the meaning of faithful representation. How can you faithfully represent a transaction so that it shows the correct, uh, you know, um, um, the correct impact of that transaction on the financial statements. So by being ethical, you are actually fulfilling the conceptual framework requirements. Another aspect is insider trading and the professional ethics. Insider trading, is something which gives knowledge of an event that is going to happen. Say, for example, the company is going to do a takeover of another company. Automatically, when the news comes out in the stock market, the prices are going to go up. But then this information is known only to very few people, and you happen to be one of them, and you are an ACCA member. So what does the institute or the academy or the association say? It says that you need to be careful. It's not like you can't hold shares of that company, but you should be careful not to share information which is not yet available in the public domain or to the public at large. You should not be sharing that information in such a way that the stock prices increase, and thereby you also end up making a fat profit, right? So that's how insider trading and ethics works. Then the other aspect is, of course, ethics in the digital age, where they say that in when you have so much access to information, when you are when you have so much access to information, data privacy, data security, then confidentiality is the ethical, point which you need to remember. That if you don't maintain confidentiality, then, you are not ethical in your dealings. So that's how in the digital age, and also professional competence, right? So I told you, if you're not competent, if you don't have the skill to perform a specific task, but you volunteer that you're going to do it, and you're simply doing your task by asking AI to do it for you, then how ethical is it, right? In that case, the company need not pay you the fat salary that it is, because it's paying you only because you said you have the competence, but you really don't have it. So ethics and digital age are very important. And of course, ethics and profits are also important. You must understand that corporates should make sustainable profits, profits which, they make should be ethical profits. And that is the only way they can be sustainable as a business. And therefore, as an accountant, you have to advise the company's directors on these matters. Okay, so that is how professional ethics is completely related to accounting. Any questions on this topic? Because we've come to the end of this topic. So any questions that you have? After this, we can actually, if possible, I want to show you the exam kit and, see whether you're able to understand what kind of questions will come from professional ethics. But tell me if you first have any questions, any doubts, any queries. There is a TYU here. If you wish, we can do that as well. So that before we move on to the exam kit, waiting for your questions, guys. No questions? Great. All right. So hopefully this concept is clear to you. And now we can go on to the TYU1. We'll look at what TYU1 is saying. No requirement for any calculations in this particular topic. So I'm not using Excel. Otherwise, we are going to be using a lot of Excel in our classes just to make sure that you get, comfortable with it as well. So tell me something. Are you already comfortable with Excel? Can you guys let me know if you're already comfortable with Excel? Because that's the biggest issue I find with exemptions, that some students are not comfortable using Excel for calculations. Okay, you're comfortable. Very good. Okay, that's great. So then that's not an issue. Just give me a second. I'll just fix this. Yeah, so what are you saying? Just a minute, I'll just go through the messages. One second, Pranati. I'm just trying to go through the messages and then reply to you. One second. Okay. Guys, just give me a second. I'm just having some technical issue with the mouse. Just Pranati, can you unmute and ask me the query? Because
Yeah, ma'am, nothing. I just had a query regarding like information is useful for all the intended users, right? And not just the investors.
absolutely, it has to be useful to all the stakeholders who are going to use the information, not just the investors, but our focus is always on the investors. That's why you see in the entire study material, they're only talking about investor perspective, right? So, of course, it's the duty of the ACCA member, the professional, to make sure that the information is useful to all the stakeholders. But then the focus is always on the investors, because even in FM, you would have studied, right? So the company's duty or the finance manager's duty is to make sure that they maximize the wealth of the shareholders. And there are two ways in which they can do that. One way is making sure that they give them proper dividends, and the other way is making sure that the share prices appreciate in the market, right? So ultimately, everything boils down to the fact that we are preparing these financial statements mainly for the investors. They should be able to make proper economic decisions. Of course, it should be useful to all the other stakeholders, such as the government, such as the employees, such as the customers, the suppliers, all of them. But then there is another interesting aspect about this question, Pranati, that there is something called a conflict of interest between each of these, stakeholders. So, what information they require find from the financial statements, each one may want a different takeaway from the financial statements, right? Because they are all looking at it from their point of view. So, if that be the case, then of course, the financial statement disclosures will try to satisfy the requirements of all stakeholders. However, the principal PRINCIPAL, right? The principal focus, the main focus is on the investors alone, right? So if you can think of all your work from their point of view, all your ethical dilemmas you can sort out from their point of view, then it's pretty much taking care of your ethical, issues. So you're right, it is for all stakeholders. However, there is always something called which is the most important point of focus. And it's a good question. It's basically the most important point of focus should be the investors. Okay, great. So, all right, I think I'm having some issues here with my mouse. So we have another half an hour of class. Just give me a second. I'll try to sort it out. Okay, I'm just going to close this and probably we can rejoin. Okay, let's all do that. Let us rejoin because this is not working out. Using the same link, you can rejoin. Okay. Or just wait a minute. Let me see if I can. Able to move the screen at all. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So let's continue. We were discussing TYU1, right? So let's continue with TYU1. It says here, Cookie is a design company. In recent years, the company has recent years, the company has shifted to a virtual working environment. So it's all online working, with all employees now working remotely, typically from their home location. So this is obviously like, a question to do with ethics and remote working. The directors are concerned about the company's most recent financial results, which show a drop in profits compared to the previous 3 years. The finance director has suggested that the deteriorating performance may be in part due to the shift to remote working and consequently a drop in productivity. So this is a very relevant topic because everyone is discussing about whether remote working is aiding productivity or it's hampering productivity. The directors are considering the use of artificial intelligence, AI software to monitor the level of activity of its employees and rectify areas of the business that may be under resourced or where further training may be required. So that's the use of artificial intelligence. They want to make sure that they can assess whether some employees are not able to achieve optimum productivity. This software includes the ability to track the number of emails sent, the number of words typed, and the amount of inactive time in a given period. So it's very, very accurate, or rather it's trying to do micromanagement of how many words are typed in the email, or during the course of work, and how much of inactive time there is. That means how much time the employees are away from the laptop. So this person who is ACCA qualified is keen to introduce the software as quickly as possible with a view that it should improve productivity and therefore the result. Sophia has no experience with this software, so she is not competent enough to use this, but has assured the other directors that it should be straightforward to implement. So, without having any prior experience of utilizing the software, she has given kind of assurance to the other directors that it can be implemented. The company operates in a country where there are strict data and privacy laws, which have recently been updated. So, Sophia has not ever worked on this before, and she has given assurance to the directors that it should be pretty simple to work on this. And also, they since she has not used the software before, she is not aware whether there is any problems with data security. So discuss the ethical issues raised by the treatment. Um, okay, so this is obviously a typing mistake here in the question. It says here, discuss the ethical issues raised by the treatment of the warranty provision. That's not, this question is not about warranty. It is about, usage of software in a remote working condition, and about whether there is, Sophia, who is an ACCA member, she has kind of given an assurance that it's going to be like, okay to use this software, whereas she is not professionally competent to give such kind of assurance. Okay, so let us see the answer, how we should word it. That is important. So it says here, the finance director, Sophia, needs to understand the new technology being proposed and assess what issues, including ethical issues, may arise. So without understanding the software, because she has never used it before, Sophia is not in a position to advise the directors that this technology should be adopted, because she's not professionally competent to do that, right? She is only the finance director. She is not the technology director or anything. So the fact that, you know, she is suggesting adoption of this software without really knowing about it is a problem. So as an ACCA member, as she must adhere to the ACCS Code of Ethics. This code sets out the importance of the fundamental principles of confidentiality, because remember, this country has a law about data security, so data privacy, etc. So confidentiality is an issue, and they just simply first of all reproducing all the 5 principles of professional code of ethics. Integrity is defined as being honest, straightforward, so providing assurance to the board about the implementation of the software with no experience about it can lead to a lack of integrity and professionalism. So what we are trying to do in this answer is basically, first of all, discuss what is it that she is trying to assure the directors about. Then we are saying a standard paragraph. So this paragraph is something that you must say in all your answers. It's a standard paragraph which says that as an ACCA member, she should have, kept in mind the code of conduct. And then you must try and pinpoint which are those codes which she is not, kind of adhering with. So one is integrity. The other one also Sophia also needs to consider the legality of the software and whether it would be compliant with the relevant laws. She has a duty of professional competence and due care, because she is simply not competent to analyze this situation, right? She is not the CTO. So the company will also need to be transparent with its employees about the use of such technology, because that is again where ethics comes in. The company cannot try to, do something, implement some technology which is basically not, which is not upfronting the fact to the employees, right? So the employees should know what exactly the company is doing in order to track them, right? Can you please stop going here and there? It's very difficult. If the company's employees are unaware of the use of the technology, this could be perceived to be unfair and so unethical. Okay, so Sophia should raise these issues with the other directors and make sure that each issue is sorted out before they rush into implementing the software, right? So all I want to make you understand is how you should be drafting this answer. It's a very simple method. So what is the step one? You must discuss what is being, you must state in the answer what is being discussed in the question. What is the issue exactly, right? Then you must state a standard paragraph where you must say that the ACCA's Code of Ethics and Conduct say that, these are the 5 principles. And then after that, you must simply pinpoint the exact code of ethics which is being, not followed in this case, right? So that is the way that we need to draft the answer. Okay. So any questions you have before we conclude today's session? Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we will stop for today. And again, we will meet next week, which is next Saturday, for the next session. And we will continue with, whatever important chapters we have to. So Pranati, any question that you have?
No, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So let us sign out now, and then we will, kind of continue the next week. I'll see you next Saturday. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.